Good morning and welcome to Maryland Today. My name is Jeff St. Pierre. Joining me to discuss the Cristo Rey Jesuit High School is Dr. Bill Heiser, president of Cristo Rey. Great to have you in here. It's so nice to meet you, Bill.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit more about Cristo Rey Jesuit High School.
Well, Cristo Rey is a fantastic school in Upper Fells Point here in Baltimore City. We're a high school and we're a Catholic Jesuit high school serving the students right here in Baltimore City.
Are your students primarily from Baltimore City? Do they come from other places?
All of our students reside in
100%.
Baltimore City, 100%. And, they're all low-income students.
Okay.
And that are also very ambitious. They want a college prep education and a rigorous education because we've sent 100% to college so far.
That's amazing. That's a really good number. I mean, there are other high schools outside of the city with students that might not have the same disadvantages of students that you're seeing at your school, and they don't have 100% going to college.
Right. The education that our students get, I think, is quite remarkable. And in the last 10 years, we've had 6 graduating classes, and all 6 have had 100% that have been accepted to college.
That's absolutely incredible. Have you noticed any students coming back? I mean, after 6 now, you've probably had some students that have already graduated college. Have they come back and been involved in the school in any way?
They have. I mean, we have 31 students to date that have already received a college degree.
Wonderful.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, after high school, the first year after high school, the rate of students attending college is 41% that enroll in college, right? At Cristo Rey, it's above 90. It's 92%.
Yeah.
So, we're already seeing graduates from college, and they're already giving back to their communities.
That's fantastic. That's really good news. And it shows the kind of impact that you've had on their lives because they get back and they immediately want to start giving back themselves, which is wonderful. So this school was founded 10 years ago. You've been with the school for 2 years, I believe?
2 years. It's my second year.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the background of how this school came together.
So it's really interesting. So Cristo Rey, we're part of a network of schools around the country.
Okay.
And there are 32 other schools around the country that are in urban centers, urban cities, and they're helping students all the time. The first one started in 1996 in the Pilsen neighborhood in Chicago. Had remarkable results in terms of getting students to college and being successful there. So early on in the early 2000s, one of our founders, Father Bill Waters, who's out of St. Ignatius Church, it had an incredible idea, and that was to start a Cristo Rey here in Baltimore City. And so the first thing they needed to do is to see if, in fact, there was a need. And, after not a long time, they figured out, of course, there's a need. There's a huge need,
Sure.
To get students a college prep education for low-income students. And so they figured out, yes, it's doable. The next thing they need to figure out, is it financially viable? Could they do it? Could they make it work financially? How would you get low-income students what can be a very expensive education? And they figured out an innovative way. They figured out that they'd get generous benefactors to support students with scholarships, but that's not the only way. Each student in our school gets a corporate internship. And so all around the Baltimore region, we have students that are working 5 times a month at different corporate internships at some of the best banks, insurance agency, technology corporations, educational institutions, hospitals, you name it. Our students are interning there. And here's the trick. Not only are they getting this fantastic experience, but those corporations and those businesses are helping support our students. So they're paying back. We essentially run a kind of a staffing agency. And those corporations pay back to help offset the cost of tuition for our students. Very generous.
It's a really interesting model. I want to talk a little bit more about that. But before we do, we're talking about how your students are low-income students. But let's be honest, in Baltimore, there's a lot of low-income students. How do you choose which students are able to come to Cristo Rey and which students don't?
I think the most important thing is we want motivated students, right? And we don't skim off the top. And what I mean by that is we don't just take the top students, A students in Baltimore City. As you know, there's some challenges educationally in Baltimore.
Sure.
I mean, we have, less than 15% of 8th graders are proficient in writing and in reading, right? That's a big challenge for us. So with that said, we take students that are highly motivated and want to go to college. So we interview all of our students. We look at their academic records, but we want students that are not only high achieving, but we want students in the middle, and we want some students that maybe haven't done as well as they could. And so we're looking for those students that are really going to achieve greatness. That's what we believe for them. And so we interview all of our students, and we also interview the parents. We want somebody in their life that can champion them. It's not always a parent. Sometimes it's a grandparent. Sometimes it's an aunt or an uncle. Sometimes it's a neighbor. But we believe that to be a key factor in their success.
I think it's important that you do look at all those factors because, a letter on a report card only tells you so much. I mean, some of the students in Baltimore City, they're facing a lot of hardships that you or I might not understand given our backgrounds, but maybe that's what's holding them back from getting that A. Maybe they're at a C level because, they've got some things going on at home they got to figure out. By doing that interview process, you're, figuring out what those problems are and giving them a pathway out.
We do. I think the pathway and the bridge is really important, right? A bridge to academic success, a belief that students can achieve, not only can go to college, but they can finish college. And, in neighborhoods such as Cherry Hill, right, where 7% of the residents have a college degree. 25% of those that live in Baltimore City have a college degree. And that varies by community. So we know how important and essential it is to the economic infrastructure for the city. And we know our kids need a college degree, but more important than that, they also need work experience.
Yeah.
And that's what our corporate internship, that's the differentiator for us. That allows our students to develop relationships. People talk often about food deserts in Baltimore.
Yeah, sure.
I think there's a professional desert in Baltimore, right? There are professional and networking deserts where kids that live in southwest Baltimore or northeast Baltimore or anywhere around, which is where we draw our students from, every part of the city. Mm-hmm. They don't necessarily in their neighborhoods always have access to professional opportunities and networking. Mm-hmm. And that's what our corporate internship allows our students to do. And
I want to talk more about that in just a second. But if people are listening right now and they want to find out more information about Cristo Rey, where should they go?
I think they should go to our website, Cristo Rey, CRISTOREY, BALT, BALT.org. Or obviously anyone could call our school at 410-727-3255 if you want to learn anything more about our school.
Let's talk more about this corporate internship program. This just sounds like a really interesting idea and one that I haven't really heard of before. So I just want to learn a little bit more about this process with your students.
Sure. All of our students, as soon as they come in, so first of all, our students start early. I mean, that's one thing that everyone should know is that what I mean by early is when many students that are going to start their ninth grade year start in late August, mm-hmm. our students are starting at the beginning of August. And so we put them through a program called Prep for Success, which is really a program to get them geared up and ready, not only for the rigors of high school, but our corporate internship program. Mm-hmm. We need to make sure that they're employment ready and that they have some soft skills that they can go into the workplace and establish very good relationships in a setting that they're not always used to.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
right?
Sure, yeah.
So we work on things such as eye contact, shaking hands, email writing. I mean, things that some people take for granted, but as you know, and I know, we learn those things often either at our first internship in college or we learned it in our first job.
Yeah.
And we're giving the students a leg up and starting it very early when they're 15 years old.
Mm-hmm. So what are the different companies that have taken part in this?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, I mean, we have students that are involved in kind of business services, insurance, technology, all sorts of educational organization. I mean, some places that are really supportive of us, there's so many. We have over 120. So it's not just in Baltimore City, 120 businesses across the Baltimore region.
Oh, that's great.
We go as far south or west as Route 175 in Columbia, up through Ellicott City, into Catonsville, as north as Sparks, mm-hmm. And we go into Anne Arundel County. So we're all over the place. And we have kids at law firms, at places like DLA Piper, at Gallagher, Avelius, and Jones, which is right downtown. We have a wonderful relationship with Mercy Hospital, with Sister Helen Amos, who's also on our board of trustees, and all the financial institutions, Legg Mason, M&T Bank, T. Rowe Price. Just so many of these companies have opened up their arms and said, we're willing to commit ourselves to helping students in Baltimore. And they're saying a big payoff.
That's great. When you place a student with one of these businesses, do you talk with the student? Do you try to see maybe where their goals are at? Or do you just say, hey, we think you'd be a good fit for here?
We try to find both. I mean,
imagine it's tough with a 14, 15-year-old student. They might not have any idea what they want to do.
They're exploring. I think that's one of the big values of this also is that students all through high school, just as we were, we're exploring things. And that's a good phase to be in, to be able to learn what you really like and what you don't like to do. The important thing, though, is that they're learning soft and hard skills around, technology skills, interfacing with adults, being professional. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are skills, administrative office skills, which is primarily the work that our students are doing. And those skills are transferable, right, that they'll take that with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And you were talking about how there's, food deserts and what you were describing as professional desert. In some of these locations in Baltimore City, you might find a lack of professional role models too. It's not just the necessary lack of a job, but someone who might be living in your neighborhood that has one of these professional jobs too. So getting these students out there, they can see what kind of opportunities are out there for them and learn what it's like to be in that community.
It opens up their horizons, right?
Sure.
It opens up their horizons, and they realize that it's not an impossibility to make it from my small neighborhood is what I kind of know, and it opens up a whole new opportunity, and it's about a relationship that is established. And some of our students work at the same location for all 4 years, or they may have different experiences throughout their 4 years. So if you can imagine the resume that a student has in working at 2 or 3 or 4 different places throughout their high school career, it's incredible. And we teach them to kind of maintain these relationships just as we do as adults. We're encouraging our students to do that not only through high school, do it throughout college. Come back during college, work during the summer, and also then contribute and stay in contact, because that's the professional network that's so important.
I was just having a discussion with some coworkers the other day about this and how there are things that we wish we had learned in school. You learn so many wonderful things when you go through school, but there are things like, writing a check and balancing a checkbook when I was in high school. That wasn't something that we learned. But that's something that you need to know in life. And what I think you guys are doing at Cristo Rey is you're teaching these children what the real world is really going to be like. You're giving them an experience before they get there, so it's not shell shock when they do enter the real world. Oh my gosh. Right. This is what I'm going to be doing. Right. No, they have an experience, and I think a lot of students could benefit from that, whether it's Baltimore City or Baltimore County or wherever. I think your model can benefit a lot of people.
It can, and students learn most. I mean, all of us have learned probably most from the times where we didn't excel, maybe where we didn't meet the expectations.
Failure is not always a bad thing.
No, it's a really good thing, and part of that is teaching students that failure and taking risks are okay. And so we teach students all the time, and students are evaluated in the workplace, just as students get a grade in a course, and we have a very rigorous curriculum, right? The same is true for our corporate internship program, that there are regular quarterly evaluations of every student. It doesn't happen often, but if a student does something where they make a mistake, or perhaps it's a larger mistake than they would have liked, and they get a do-over, they're held accountable for that. And they'll be retrained. They could get fired and retrained.
So let's give that website and that phone number one more time here. And if somebody listening works for a company that might be interested in taking part in this and having one of your students come to them, can they find that information at the same place?
They can. I mean, the best place is to call our phone number, and that's 410-727-3255. Ask for our corporate internship office. DJ Lambden and Janet Schock head up that program, and they do a fantastic job in terms of business development. Our website is CristoReyBalt.org, and let me spell that, CristoReybalt.org. And that's a great way to find out information. And we're always looking for, our students rely on, generous benefactors, and they also rely heavily, obviously, on our corporate internship program. So we talk about, giving kids a bridge. This is a great opportunity to really build a connection with a student that's going to do great work. I mean, these are the leaders in the future, right? We talk about where is Baltimore City going, and where do we want to be in 10 years? Well, I'll tell you, in 10, 15, 20 years, I really believe the leadership in Baltimore City and in Maryland is going to come from Cristo Rey.
And like you mentioned before, you've already seen some students graduate college at this point with college degrees, and you've seen them coming back to their communities and already giving back. And that's the kind of inspiration that you hope will last with Cristo Rey.
It really is. I mean, we just finished our first student that finished a master's degree, which is an incredible story.
That's awesome.
Darius Sanders, what's great is this. Our students not only want to get their college degree, but they feel it's really important to return to Baltimore City, right? They're not neglecting the community that they love and they value and they grew up in. And they should. They should love those communities. And so Darius is a great example of that, where he went and got his master's degree in social work from NYU.
Wow.
New York University, came all the way back, continued relationship, and now he works at Kennedy Krieger as a psychiatric social worker.
That's awesome.
So we're really proud of him. And you've got people like Kendra Brown, who finished her degree from Goucher, and now she's working at the state's attorney's office in Carroll County.
Wow.
Right? So it's a very close network of folks.
Well, Dr. Bill Heiser, I did hear there was an interesting story with the very first applicant. How is she doing?
Well, it's incredible. I mean, can you imagine trying to find for any school the very first applicant that applied to a school? That in and of itself is like, how'd you figure that out? And she was the very first one, and Kiona McNeil is her name. And we celebrated her at our 10-year anniversary celebration. And she's phenomenal. Kiona did something very unique. Not only did she do great at Cristo Rey and have experiences at different places, I mean, at hospitals, at different places around the city, and she went to Goucher, and she had a phenomenal experience there, and she really, really excelled. And here's what Kiona did. She returned to work right in the city, and she works in the Irvington neighborhood, and she's an assistant director at the YMCA here in Baltimore City in Irvington, and they're doing fantastic work. And so we had a video that celebrated her, and she was there with her grandmother, who was her champion, and she was there also with her supervisor. And they're just doing phenomenal work there. But none of it is possible without the experiences, her hard work, number one, without the support network that she had. And she really attributes it to the great education and opportunity she got at Cristo Rey. And now she's sharing those skills and strategies with kids and children in Baltimore. And that's the return effect I think you'll see from Cristo Rey.
Well, it's clear that Cristo Rey is having a large impact on Baltimore City and the students that it comes in contact with. Can you give that contact information one more time before we wrap this up?
Sure. Our phone number is 410-727-3255. Please ask for myself, Bill Heiser, or our corporate internship office. They'll be happy to help and support. Our website is CristoReyBalt.org.
And that, again, is spelled CRISTOREY, Balt.org. Dr. Bill Heiser, president of Cristo Rey Jesuit High School. Thank you so much for coming by. A wonderful story you guys have there, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.